The rain fell in sheets that Thursday evening, turning the downtown streets into rivers of gray. Marcus Chen sat in the back of his black sedan, watching the city blur past through rain-streaked windows. His driver navigated the evening traffic while Marcus reviewed quarterly reports on his tablet, numbers and projections glowing in the dim light. At 42, Marcus had built his software company from nothing into an empire. His days were measured in meetings and mergers, his nights in spreadsheets and strategic plans. He had everything he'd worked for: a corner office on the 30th floor, a penthouse overlooking the city, respect from competitors and fear from subordinates. But tonight, something felt different. Heavy, like the weight of the rain itself, pressing down on his shoulders. "Sir, there's an accident up ahead," his driver said. "I'll need to take the long route through the old district." Marcus nodded without looking up. Time was money, but traffic was traffic. The car turned down streets Marcus hadn't seen in years, streets that reminded him of another life, before the suits and the boardrooms, before he'd learned to measure success in dollars instead of moments. The buildings here were older, tired. Some windows were dark. Others glowed with the warm yellow light of families gathered for dinner. Then he saw her, a figure hunched beneath a broken bus shelter, trying to shield something in her arms from the relentless rain. The shelter's plastic roof had shattered on one side, offering almost no protection. Water poured through the gap like a waterfall. "Stop the car," Marcus said. His driver glanced back, surprised. "Sir?" "Stop, here." The sedan pulled to the curb. Marcus stepped out into the rain, his expensive suit immediately darkening with water. He moved closer to the shelter, and that's when he heard it. A baby's cry, thin and desperate against the storm's roar. The young woman was maybe 25, her dark hair plastered to her face. She wore a thin jacket, soaked through, but she'd wrapped the baby in what looked like every piece of clothing she owned. A threadbare sweater, a scarf with holes, a towel worn soft from years of washing. She was trying to feed the child, one hand holding a bottle, the other curled protectively around the small bundle. Her eyes lifted as Marcus approached, and in them he saw something he recognized. Not fear, not hope, just the quiet determination of someone who'd learned that the world didn't stop being cruel just because you needed it to. "Evening," Marcus said, water running down his face. She didn't respond, just held her baby closer and looked away. Marcus understood. A man in a $3,000 suit didn't usually bring good news to people at bus stops. He could be police, social services, someone with the power to take away the one thing she had left. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said gently. "My car's right there. It's warm, dry. Let me give you both a ride somewhere." "Bus comes in 20 minutes, she said quietly. Her voice was steady but thin, like paper stretched too tight. "We're fine. The baby's shivering." She looked down at the bundle in her arms, and her face crumpled for just a moment before she forced it smooth again. "I know," she whispered. Marcus stood there in the rain, thinking. 5 years ago he would have walked away, told himself it wasn't his problem, that the world was full of people who needed help, and you couldn't save everyone. That's what the city taught you, how to look past the suffering, how to keep walking. But something stopped him tonight. Maybe it was the way she held that baby, like it was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting beneath her feet. Maybe it was how the rain made everything raw and real, washing away the comfortable distance he usually kept from other people's pain. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe he was just tired of being cold. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Emma." "I'm Marcus." He crouched down so they were at eye level, rain soaking his knees. "Emma, I'm not going to call anyone. I'm not going to take your baby. I'm not going to ask questions you don't want to answer. I'm just offering a dry car and a ride. That's all." She studied his face for a long moment. Whatever she saw there must have been enough, because she finally nodded. Marcus helped her into the sedan. His driver, bless him, didn't say a word, just turned up the heat and grabbed a blanket from the trunk. Emma settled into the leather seat, unwrapping the wet layers from her baby. The child was maybe 6 months old, with round cheeks and eyes that didn't yet understand how hard the world could be. "Where can I take you?" Marcus asked. Emma was quiet for a moment. We don't have anywhere right now." The words hung in the warm air of the car. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, something that had been locked away for years. behind walls he'd built from ambition and ruthless efficiency. "The baby's name?" he asked instead. "Hope." Emma smiled for the first time, tired but genuine. "Her name is Hope." Of course it was. Marcus thought about his empty penthouse, his refrigerator stocked by a service, his guest room that had never seen a guest. He thought about the woman in his car, who had nothing but still managed to smile when she said her daughter's name. He thought about the last time he'd done something just because it was right, not because it served his goals or built his empire. He thought about the man he used to be, before the cold settled in. "I have a proposition," he said carefully. "It's not charity. I don't do charity, but I could use someone to manage my household. Light work, mostly just keeping the place running since I'm never there. It comes with a private apartment. Small but clean, warm, safe." Emma stared at him. "Why would you do this?" Marcus looked at baby Hope, now quiet and content in the warmth. He looked at Emma, whose eyes still held that fierce determination, but also, now a flicker of something else, something that looked dangerously like trust. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe because someone once helped me when I needed it. Or maybe because I'm tired of being the kind of person who doesn't stop." The car moved through the rain-washed streets, carrying them toward whatever came next. Outside, the storm continued. But inside, something had changed. Something small but significant. Marcus had spent years building walls. Tonight, in the space of a single decision, one of them had finally cracked. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, the cold that lived in his chest began ever so slightly to thaw.